Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today, in honor of Valentine's Day, I am recommending my favorite romantic books. The books that I am going to recommend are not necessarily romance driven because I don't really read a whole bunch of books like that, but they do have high amounts of romance and or some of my favorite romances ever. Alright, so let's jump right in. The first book that I'm going to recommend is Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marlier. This whole series actually should count. I'm just starting with the first one. They all have beautiful, beautiful, heart-wrenching, mind-blowing romances that make me cry every single time. This first book is about a girl whose father remarries a woman who ends up being like an evil sorceress lady and turns her brothers into swans, so it's based off that fairy tale. And she alone has the power to save them, so she has to make them shirts out of this really horrible plant, like stinging nettle plant kind of, and she has to make enough by this certain date or they'll all be turned into swans and there's no chance she'll ever save them. Anyway, so she gets captured by these men and she gets taken back, and it's really just a beautiful, beautiful story, and the romance is so good. So I highly recommend this book and the whole series if you really want just a really intense, wonderful but sad romance. Every time I'm in the mood for romance, I read this book. The next book on my list is Graceling by Kristen Cashore. This book is not really romance driven, but there is a romance in it, and it is a big part of the book. I really love this romance because it has an effortless quality about it. The two people, Katza and Poe, are really similar but different, and they complement each other. It wasn't like a pressured romance or a love triangle or anything silly like that. It just has a really beautiful, effortless, falling in love sort of quality, and I really love Katza and Poe as characters, so seeing them falling in love, especially Katza, who doesn't ever want to have children, she doesn't ever want to be married, she doesn't want to be tied down by a man, seeing her kind of not change those ideals, but realize that she can have love without having those things. I really love them in this book. Okay, so you guys are probably going to laugh at me for the next book because I feel like I'm a total loser sap for loving this one, and that is The Host by Stephenie Meyer. I know that Stephenie Meyer is kind of an old thing, and I feel like nobody likes her books at all, but I really actually like The Host. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm not even remotely ashamed. I just know that a lot of you guys are probably laughing at me right now because this is a sappy book. In this book, aliens have basically taken over the world, and they're kind of like body snatchers, like their souls get put into people so they take over the body. And Wanda, she gets the name Wanda later, she gets put into Melanie's body, and and Melanie is still there, so she starts getting memories of this man that Melanie loved, Jared, and her brother, so she goes to find them. And it's just, I know this book is not well written and it's not amazing or anything, but I love the romance in this book. Ian, Jared, Melanie, Wanda, I love all of them. And there's just something about this book that on a rainy day when I'm feeling sad and I want to read something sappy and want to cry, I totally always turn to this book. I can't even count how many times I've reread it. I always skip the first 100 pages. I just get to the point in which she's leaving to go find them, and that's about it. But I love it from there because it's really just, I think it's really kind of a beautiful love story. The next book on my list is Magic Bites by Ilona Andrews. I just like this whole series, and again, this is one of those books where romance is not really the focal point, but there is romance in it. And these books have probably one of my favorite romances of all time, just because the author does such a freaking good job of teasing you. Their romance, before they become romantically actually involved, stretches books, books and books. I mean, they are constantly just dancing around each other, teasing each other, and them as a couple, Kate and Curran is the guy's name, are my favorite. They are just my favorite of all time. These books are fantastic, some of my favorite books as it is, but the romance itself is so well written, it's so not forced, and it's Oh, it's so good. It's so good, and it's so sexy, and it's so funny, and if you want a really, really good romance, I recommend reading this series. It was fantastic. The next book on my list is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. Now, I haven't read this book for a while, I will admit, and I have not read the rest of the series yet, so I don't know if it ends horribly and tragically or whatever. But I do remember when I read this, the romance, like, destroyed me. It was so beautiful. I don't really remember, like, the details necessarily, but I do remember the romantic aspect because that is what stuck with me, and it was beautiful beyond words. Like, I cried when I read this book. I felt so overwhelmed by just the romance, and so sad and heartbreaking and wonderful. I really recommend this book just for the romance itself because it is so good. And like I said, I don't know how the series ends, so if it ends horribly, I'm so sorry. I really hope not. Don't tell me. But it stuck with me. It really stuck with me. Okay, so the last book I'm recommending is Stardust by Neil Gaiman. I love this book as it is, and it's not necessarily like just a tale of romance. It's also a tale of adventure and magic and finding yourself and all this wonderful stuff. But I do really love the romance in this. This book is really just like sweet and cute and fun, and it's such a good one. And the romance between the characters is just, it's so cute. It's so cute, and I love it so much. This book is fantastic, and I really love watching these two characters fall in love because you almost don't notice it happening. They don't, and you as a reader, you know it's happening, but it's kind of just subtle and slow and beautiful. Alright, you guys, so those are my favorite romantic reads. I know none of them particularly fall under like the romance genre just on its own, but like I said, I don't read books like that, so this is the Rowan version of romantic recommendations. Feel free and let me know what your guys' favorite romantic reads are. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Happy Valentine's Day, and I'll see you guys next time.